Say hello to the president of the Professional Fighters League, one Carlos Silva. How are you, Carlos?
Good to see you.
Welcome in studio. Tough act to follow, Carlos. I don't know if you know this, but John Jones was just sitting in that chair. Please have a seat.
He's taller than I am.
Yes, he's a very tall guy. It's great to have you here, Carlos.
It's great to be here.
Appreciate it. If you mind, up to the microphone over there. Don't be shy. Yeah, how do you feel?
How's that?
That's
Feel good.
That's a lot better. Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
December 31st, we ended the year. But, it's interesting that you're in studio right after John Jones, Carlos, because John Jones is a foundational type of fighter, right? He's a guy that you build a promotion around. Your organization is in its infancy. I don't even like to consider the World Series of Fighting days when talking about you guys. Like, you really had your first year. It's about to end on December 31st. When you see a guy like that, do you think, like, if we could just get one John Jones, that changes everything, right?
Well, I when I see John Jones walk out and you see what kind of an athlete he is, first of all, you realize what great athletes MMA athletes are.
Right.
Because I don't think really the general public understands that. But then you look at what we're doing on December 31st, and there's going to be 6 champions, 6 great athletes. They're all going to get crowned. They're going to get paid $1 million each. And I think, that foundational product piece changes the sport too. And, it's funny because John, sent something on social the other day. We were talking about something, and he jumped in and he said, wow, this is amazing what they're doing.
Oh, really?
And he did, yeah.
Oh,
wow. We were back in the playoffs.
You guys?
And so, yeah. And so, look, people are noticing. I'm glad, John Jones is noticing because I think the MMA community is noticing.
So here we are, and you wanted to come earlier, and I mentioned to you, like, look, let's do it after the playoffs.
I just wanted to come and see you, Ariel.
Well, I appreciate that, but I wanted to get your take. Okay, so we have the finals coming up, but I wanted to get your take on the entire regular season, the entire playoff. Be honest with me. Are you happy with it? I'm sure not everything. Like, if I would have talked to you, you guys started in June
7th.
If I would have talked to you June 6th and said, okay, everything could go your way. What are your hopes? What are your aspirations? Here we are, November 26th. Are you happy with the way the first season has played out?
Happier than I could have thought.
Really?
Absolutely.
Why?
Well, look, we came here on June 7th to Madison Square Garden. We kicked off the season. We said, let's start here and let's end here.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a nice story.
Yeah.
We've got a regular season. We've got 72 fighters. We've got a regular season that no one's really done. Fighters have to fight twice. They get points. What are the points all about? No one really knows what the points are all about.
Right.
I can tell you honestly, Ariel, when we had our fighter meetings and we explained all this to the fighters when they came to our media day back in February, they were processing it too. MMA's been around for 25 years. Now we were putting something new in place. So, we're fighting. You and I are fighting. You get a finish. You get a win. You get points for your win. You get a couple of extra points for your second round finish. It's new. Once those first fights happened here at the Garden and then in Chicago and then in D.C., you could see everybody starting to realize, oh, my God, I lost. I got 0 points. I won, and I got a first-round knockout. I got 6 points. I'm gonna make the playoffs. And you could start to see that sort of, like you see in every sport, like
right.
You see in football. It's happening right now as we get into week 10 week 12 that we're in now in the NFL season. The teams are starting to sort of strategize. You could see the fighters doing that in the regular season.
Right.
So I think that went probably better than we thought. We had a few injuries. The rules that we set up on alternates and the way that would work all played out. We got through our second round of the regular season. It laid out, by points, 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, and we threw them into this March Madness style playoff, quarterfinals and semifinals.
Right.
Again, we sort of had to do a reset. Remember telling the team, regular season went better than we thought. It all worked out. That none of that matters anymore.
Right.
We're now in the playoffs.
Right.
Completely new situation. Fighters are going to fight twice in the same night. Quarterfinals, 2 rounds.
Right.
Go rest. Come back 30 minutes later, semifinals, 3 rounds. Although we had done some of this in our past, and there's been a lot of tournament formats, but we hadn't done it at PFL. This was the first time. And I got to tell you that it all held up. A couple guys couldn't get through. A couple, quote, lucky losers made it in. Guys, hurt a hand in the quarterfinals, even though, Abu Bakr is an example of that. We won, hurt his hand, he couldn't continue. And so Bojan got to, slot in and go through to the semifinals. I think those semifinal fights were the tense. They were strategic. All of these guys were trying to think about how do I get into that finals at Madison Square Garden and try and win $1 million and change my life. And you could see all of those gyrations happening every fight in the cage. And we came out of these playoffs, the third night of the playoffs in Washington, D.C. We've got our 6 finalists. You add in a great special event with Kayla, and I think we've made it. You know, a lot of people weren't sure. All of us weren't sure. We laid it all out. We did our homework. We sort of tried to look at every corner case and cover down, and all of those things sort of played out. And now we've got 6 great fights, championship fights to win $1 million and become PFL world champions. And so I think the format is held up, and I think some stars have emerged. I mean, guys like Ray Cooper. I mean, we've all seen Ray Cooper over the years, and he came out in the regular season and, he sort of had a couple of tough fights. He fought Jake Shields, didn't know. Would Jake take him down? Would he wrap him up? And, his power and his speed. And, just guys have emerged. Vinny Magalhaes is like, I mean, we've seen Vinny. I mean, right. Vinny's fit. He looks great. These incredible moves. He's a BJJ world champion, but, didn't really know how it was going to play out. And again, I think he's focused and clear on what he wants to do, which is win a belt and win $1 million. And so I think the format has become a star, and now these stars are going to emerge as we get to this championship night. So yeah, very happy with the way it's gone. Anything you wish you could have done differently or will do differently in the future? I agree with everything you just said. It has gone, and I will admit, I too had my doubts, and I think it's really worked out better. There's a few things that I would suggest changing, but I'd rather hear from you. Well, look, I think if you look on social, and even if you talk to the fighters, when we left the regular season and we came to the playoffs, in that fighter meeting, we reminded all of our fighters that in the quarterfinals, it's only 2 rounds. And in 2 rounds, there could be a draw because there's only 2 rounds. So the fighter that wins the first round, if there's a draw, will then advance to the semifinals. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of arms went up, and they were like, why are you doing that? It was like, well, we looked at a lot of different ways to advance the fighter into the semis, and that's what we came up with, working with Ray, working with the fighter team. That was the rule. Everyone knew the rule. So fighters had to come out and win that first round. I think we'll look at that rule next year. I think certainly if you won the first round, you're happy with the rule. Right. If you fought a great second round and felt like maybe the momentum of the fight was going your way, you probably didn't like that rule. And so I think that would be something that we would look at is how do we deal with the 2-round quarterfinals? You have to have 2 rounds. As we went to the states that allowed our playoff feature of fight twice and win twice, you can only fight 5 rounds in one night because 5 rounds is the equivalent of a championship night. So there's a real rhyme or reason for why it's 2 in the quarters and 3 in the semis. Okay. But we still have to make sure that in that 2-round fight that the best fighter advances. So I think as any league, we'll go back and look at how it all worked out once we get through the championship, and we'll make a few tweaks. You look at NASCAR, they tweaked their playoff format of, going from 10 drivers to 12 to I think 16 as they've advanced. And baseball has added another wild card over the last, 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think we'll look at each of those things and try to improve it. I'm happy you brought up that. That's the one I was going to bring up. Yeah. So much respect. I'm just curious, and you probably looked into this way more than I have because you're dealing with the commissions. Can you do maybe 3-minute rounds so that it's an odd number, but it's a great question. It equals out to 12 minutes or something? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not 15 minutes. It's a great question. I think the reason we went the way we went 2 rounds and 3 rounds is because it fell within a rule set that the commissions had approved. Yeah. Commissions say you can fight 5 rounds in one night. Okay. What some commissions haven't yet told us is that you can fight 2 separate fights in those 5 rounds. But now that we've done this in California, and Andy Foster was great, we've done it in Washington D.C. and we went down to Louisiana. Then there's a number of other states that have already approved us. And now that we've done it this year, then even more states will approve it next year. That will be a question that a commission might ask us as well, is that we might allow it this way, and that could make a change, in 19 or 20. How's the business? Thursday nights, typically you're on, right? Selling tickets, gates, things of that nature. How did it go? Look, I think the stadiums were full. To your point, we started June 7th. Yeah. So the PFL is really only 6 months old. Yeah. It's just going to be 6 months old. So I think like any new league and new sports league, we have to continue to build the awareness, build it in the local markets. Look, I think the good news about our format winning can sometimes be difficult depending on markets. And so you want to have local fighters in markets. We see it. It doesn't matter what MMA organization is throwing a fight. If they're going to Canada, if they're going to New York, if they're going to Seattle, they try to bring in that local flavor. We don't have quite that advantage because the regular season plays out and the venues are set. And so I think those are things that we're going to try and dial in to help the business to get more people, sell more tickets, bring in those arenas. But I think the way we approached it is, we've been in 5,000 person arenas, and it's really a made for TV product. It's free on television, no pay-per-view. And so from that sort of intimate, sort of boutique feeling, being in a 5,000 person arena, really every seat is great. We're going to be here at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden. I know you've been there a million times, and you can sit anywhere in that arena and feel like you're up close and personal with the fighters and really getting to see the action. So we'll continue to build that in the arena, but really, build it on television as well.
I feel like your format is perfect for the Vinny Magayesh's of the world, the Ray Coopers of the world, the Jake Shields of the world, meaning guys who either aren't stars yet or are trying to maybe, turn back the clock or get one last shot at glory. Have you found it difficult, because I know you've talked to some free agents, some notable names, to convince them to go through the ringer of the regular season and the playoffs? You need some big names, right? It would be nice to have some big names, some recognizable names to attach your company towards, hitch your wagon on, or whatever the term is. Have you found it difficult to convince them to join when they're used to, I fight once, I get a big pot of money, as opposed to going through this whole process to get the big pot?
I don't think there's that many big pots of money, first of all. So, if you take the 5 fighters that are sort of dipping their hands into the big pots of money, there's 30 other great fighters that aren't always getting tapped into that $1 million purse. So I can tell you, every single conversation always comes back to, and I could win $1 million. The other piece that's really interesting is all of them like, I have no problem fighting in a tournament style playoff format. I like that. I did that when I was growing up. I did this in wrestling, or I did this in, judo, or even boxing. And so that hasn't been an issue at all. And I think we've already seen it now that we've come out of the playoffs, to your point. And I think maybe like you, we waited on some of those conversations because we wanted to also show all of those top fighters that regular season and the playoffs really worked. That's happened now. And so we just continue to get more and more. And I tell you, when the $1 million checks are held over the heads of these fighters and they get their belt, it's just going to continue in terms of those phone calls. There's no doubt about it.
And to be clear, if I'm Sean O'Connell, for example, and I win on December 31st, I'm walking away with $1 million. That's no strings attached.
That's right.
In addition to whatever my purse is for that night, right? Or is that
no? So the way the playoffs work, is really the way the playoffs work is you really get paid when you exit the tournament. Either you exit because you lost in the quarterfinals, semifinals, or you're the runner-up, or you exit because you're the winner.
Okay.
So the way that the structure worked is $50,000 if you lost in the quarterfinals, $100,000 if you lost in the semifinals, $200,000 if you're the runner-up, and $1 million if you're the winner. And that's the same across all of the weight classes.
But if I won in the quarters or semi, like if I'm Vinny Magayesh or Sean O'Connell, did I get paid anything for the playoffs yet, or have I not received that check yet?
You're getting your paycheck when you become the runner-up or you become the
What
the
if
finalist.
they get injured in training?
There was a stipend that was paid out so that they didn't feel like they went home empty-handed after winning in the quarters and the semis in one night.
Right.
And then the balance will be paid on fight night to them and equal $1 million and equal $200,000.
Hope it doesn't happen, obviously, but what if someone does get injured in training? What is the backup plan for that?
Yeah, so we have alternates across all 6.
Okay.
And the alternates are the highest-ranked fighter that lost in the semifinals.
Okay.
They will come to Madison Square Garden on December 31st and make weight.
Oh, wow.
And they will be ready to fight. They're in camps now. And if something happens, they will then slot in, not unlike what happened in the quarters and the semis where a couple guys fell out. Those other fighters had to be ready. The same will be true of the championship night.
If they weigh in but don't fight, do they still get paid?
They do.
Okay, they get something.
You have to.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've done their hard work. They've got to come and be the alternate. And so they will get paid to come and show up and make weight. Absolutely.
Now, here's the question that I'm most interested in. How's the TV situation going? Where are we going to be in 2019?
It's a great question. I can tell you that everything that we're talking about has created a lot of buzz.
Okay.
We've had great partners in NBC and Facebook. Facebook new this year. NBC's been with us for 6 years, and excited to continue that into the championship. And I think in the next couple of weeks, as we get to that championship, we'll be announcing our 2019 and 2020 partnership. It'll happen before the championship.
Oh, really?
And we're happy to talk more about it and share it.
Are we close?
I think we're very close. Yes.
Okay. Can you give us any hints?
I can't give you any hints.
Okay. Are you happy?
I am happy.
If we're close, are you happy with
very happy.
what it could be?
Yeah, very happy. I think the PFL is going to continue to grow, and I think both here in the U.S. and internationally, you're going to see us grow more.
Okay. Are you guys going to put on events internationally, or are you just going to stay in the States?
We're probably in 19 going to be here in the States.
Okay.
And then we'll look to 2020 to go international, but certainly we're turning up our distribution in the rest of the world as well on the international front. Excited about that.
How many events in 2019?
11 events in 2019.
How many did you have this year?
10 events.
10. What's the one extra one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. 10 events in 2019 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same weight classes?
Well, we're adding a female weight class.
Right. Yes.
In 2019.
But is that just in addition to the same ones that you had this year?
Correct.
Okay.
That's
and
right.
Are you bringing? I worry that it might be redundant if you just bring back the same 8 guys, right? Or more than 8 guys, right?
Well, 72 started the season.
Yeah, but for each weight class, right? So
Yeah.
it's like 12?
12 per weight class.
Yeah. Are you just going to bring back the same 12 guys?
No.
Okay.
So the way it works, again, sort of looking at all of the different sports formats, if you made the semifinals, you get to keep your tour card, your seat. So if you made it to the semifinals, you're in the 2019 season. Then we would go down and look at the quarterfinalists and then certainly look at the top fighters from the regular season. We'll go from 24 fighters that'll be in based on being semifinalists to 50 fighters sort of middle of December, and then back to our 72 fighters by the middle of January, and then announce our roster on February 1st.
Okay. Wow. You guys got it all planned out.
You gotta if you have a season, you have a league, you gotta
Sure.
hit your marks, and I think it's something that the fighters appreciated because they understood how they had to get ready and when they had to get ready.
When is the first event of 2019? Also first week of June?
It's going to be a little bit earlier. One of the other things, going back to your question of what would you look at to fix for next year, is we got a little tight on our season this year, and we probably could have used another week to 10 days in between fights for the fighters. And so next year, we're going to elongate that by 2 weeks. So we're going to start in May. The regular season will go from May to August. And that way, we'll give a little more breathing room to the fighters to be able to rest. If they've got any suspensions, due to some stitches or a cut, they get those extra, 10 days, 12 days to rest in between their fights, which will make a difference.
Still going to be on Thursdays?
Still going to be on Thursdays. Yeah, I think Thursdays worked out well for us.
I like Thursdays for you guys.
I liked it a lot. I thought it gave us sort of something to talk about. It was, you want to watch great Thursday night, PFL action, MMA, you can do that. So we're going to continue on Thursday nights.
And you're almost guaranteeing no competition. No other events happening that night.
That's right. I mean, you can always run into a collision with a baseball or a NASCAR, something
MMA.
unusual. But yeah, right now from the MMA front, it's usually Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. So there's really there's nothing to go up against.
Curious, considering you're now fully entrenched in all of this, did you watch the Golden Boy event on Saturday?
I watched one fight of the Golden Boy event.
Let me guess
Saturday.
which one. The main event. What did you make of the product, and do you think that they are serious about staying in the MMA business, or do you think this is going to be a one-off?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. It felt a little bit like it was a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, the main event probably just makes me feel that way. I thought the main event was a good event. Look, I know Chuck well. I don't know Tito. I don't know that the buildup was there that you really wanted. It didn't really feel like there was the kind of buzz that maybe everybody wanted. But, it's still Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, and those are two big names. And I thought they came out, and, I watched the press conference afterwards, and I thought Chuck was very honest. He's like, look, I came out. I thought I felt good out there, and I got caught. And then I got hurt, and, I lost a fight. But, look, 48 years old. I thought he got in the cage. I thought he looked great. And Tito was clearly ready. So, look, it was a good fight for both of them.
Did they approach you guys about being a part of this, about doing the fight under your banner?
We did talk. Chuck has worked for us in the past, and so we know them well. We talked a little bit, but I think just the entire format really wasn't the type of thing that we were looking for. We were launching this whole format with the regular season and the playoffs. So it just didn't really fit. But, we certainly, wish Chuck and, Tito well. It seemed like a good fight. Everyone seemed healthy at the end of the fight, which is always important too.
Any concern that there's just too much MMA on TV? That there's oversaturation?
Not really.
No?
Not really.
I'm concerned.
Are you?
Yes, very.
Why?
There's too much. There's just too much.
Is there too much baseball?
Yeah, but there's a break. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Come January, February, I'm like, man, I haven't seen a baseball game in 3-4 months. I miss this. There's never a break in MMA.
Well, there's a break in PFL.
There is a break in PFL.
There's a break in PFL.
But it's all lumped together.
It's a great point, and you're right. I mean, look, a couple of other sports have that problem too. I mean, certainly the tennis guys would say the same. They don't have a break.
Right.
They come out of December and go into the Australian Open, and they have the same issue. So you're right. There may be that sort of cadence every week that you do start to get a little bit numb. And we think that's why the format of a regular season, through to a championship works, because there'll be 6 guys that are champions, and then next year we'll have a female division too as a champion, and then they kind of go back and regroup and figure out what they got to do for the next season and go again. And maybe that will, to your point, make the heart grow a little fonder to come back and see maybe how someone defends. Because certainly defending a PFL belt is going to be interesting too to get through a second regular season playoffs and championship.
Speaking of females. You announced recently that you are going to do a 155-pound women's tournament next year. Of course, I think the face of the organization right now is Kayla Harrison, and that's a very good face to have. She's phenomenal as far as fighting, on the mic, etc. But you've done a great job with some other guys, in particular Ray Cooper. I would say he'd be number 2. I don't know if there are 8 155-pound females in the world right now. Why did you choose 155 and not 145 where very famously, the UFC is having trouble fielding 8 fighters right now?
It's a great question. And there's definitely 8 155s in the world.
Is it going to be 8 or 12?
We're still finalizing it.
Okay.
It could be either or.
Okay.
We've talked about both, and we're still finalizing it.
Okay.
But there's definitely 12.
There is.
There's probably 16.
Okay.
Ray back in Vegas has already got a nice list going.
Okay.
I think we looked at Kayla, who's clearly the centerpiece of that division, no doubt about it, with her 2-time, 2 gold medalists and now her 2 wins in MMA.
Right.
And we sort of looked at really helping understand sort of weight cutting and sort of the dangers around weight cutting and trying to really put a division together that the women could concentrate on fighting and not just concentrate on making weight. And so we felt like for this first year, 155 was the way to go. No one's been at 155. Certainly if you talk to Brittany, who fought Kayla in her first fight, Brittany Elkins, I mean, she tells stories about cutting her hair off at times to try and make that last third of a pound of weight because she had to cut so much weight to get there. And she's a tall woman. And so we looked at the weight rate, and we thought 155 was the way to go. And Kayla was happy with it. All the other ladies that we've talked to seem happy with it, and they're going to be able to concentrate on fighting.
Are you guys going to be aggressive in signing some big names in this offseason to try to get, I know you spoke to Cub Swanson. I know there was some conversations with Eddie Alvarez. Will you try to go out and get some recognizable names who are, it also depends on, if anyone's available, right? But is that like part of the business plan?
It's already part of the business and already in process. Absolutely.
Who are we talking to?
I mean, Cub and Eddie are great examples. Had nice dinners with them and spent time with them. And maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe we were still figuring out the format as we got into 2018. But I think that list kind of continues to grow and change every day. As you know, free agency kind of comes and goes.
Right.
Sometimes we learn about it on social media. Right. Sometimes we learn about it because someone's on a plane flying over to Singapore or someplace else.
Wow, nice.
And you see those things, but that's at the top of our list, and I think you will see. That's really why we left the format the way it is. We only have 24 guys that are locked.
Right.
And so there's still 48 plus the female that we're looking for next year. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, both with the great roster we've got, but certainly to bring in some big names.
Does that mean you guys are talking to Sage Northcutt?
That means that Sage was on a plane to Singapore
that's right.
in first class.
Right.
And I saw that on social media.
Okay, but no talks.
No talks at the moment.
Okay, great. So December 31st, it's New Year's Eve in New York City. This time, by the way, you guys are going like almost up against midnight, as opposed to last time you were a little earlier in the day.
Last time we was a Saturday afternoon,
Right.
December 31st, back in 2016 when we were here.
Yeah.
I think we were 4 to 6 on.
That was 2016?
It was 2016.
Holy smokes.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Wow.
2 years have gone by. We're
because
7
you
to
didn't
11.
right.
Yeah, we're 7 to 11. It's a Monday night.
Right.
And so you're going to basically bring in the new year with 6 PFL world champions.
What is it like trying to sell tickets in New York City that close to midnight and
so-
close to Times Square?
So far so good.
Okay.
There hasn't, the nice thing about the Hulu Theater is you've got the train station right there.
Right.
So if you want to get out of the city at 11 o'clock when the show ends, you can. And certainly if you want to walk across the street, there's no shortage of bars or restaurants that you could bring in the new year. So far so good. We're happy with it.
If there is one thing, what is one thing that you want people to know about PFL as you head into the finals and as you head into 2019? With so many organizations out there trying to create your own identity, and I think you guys have created your own identity, which is half the battle, right? You don't want to just... That was always my problem with WSOF. It never felt like it had an identity. It was just like, what do these fights mean? Your fights all mean something, so kudos, because I was skeptical, right? Kudos. What do you want people to know about the organization?
Yeah, I think you summed it up great. We want to know that if you win, you advance. And it doesn't matter whether you can talk more, talk less, bigger personality, smaller personality. What you do in the cage matters. And if you win, there's nothing I can do, there's nothing you can do, there's nothing Ray can do. If you win, you advance. And if you eventually win, you become the champion. And that's what sport's all about. I mean, that is what sport, it doesn't matter if you get that final out, if you make that final touchdown pass, if you get that final knockout, you become a world champion. And I think that true sport format is really at the core of what we're trying to do with this regular season, playoffs, and championship. And so far, it feels really good.
Thanks for coming in, Carlos.
Ariel, great to see you.
I appreciate it. So, December 31st, Hulu Theater, PFL Finals. I believe it's PFL 11, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the number of the event?
PFL Championships.
PFL Championships. There it is. 6 title fights plus Kayla Harrison, and it all airs on NBCSN.
That's right.
Did I get it?
You got it.
Appreciate it, Carlos. Thank you so much.
you
Thanks
again,
for coming
Ariel.
in. There he is, Carlos Silva, the president of the PFL, their final event coming up on December 31st in New York City, the famed Hulu Theater, which if you don't know, the Hulu Theater is the Madison Square Garden Theater. So that is a very famous venue. They have been there before, and they will be, I do believe, the final event of 2018.